Maya had always been different. At 5 feet 11 inches tall, with broad shoulders and strong arms from years of playing basketball in college, she stood out in every room she entered, while other girls her age worried about being too short. To reach the top shelf, Maya worried about bumping her head on low doorways and towering over everyone at parties. Growing up in Seattle, she remembered the exact moment her confidence began to crack. It was her sophomore year of high school during the homecoming dance. She had finally worked up the courage to ask her crush, a boy from her math class, to dance. When she approached him in her new dress and modest heels, he looked up at her and laughed, not a kind laugh, but the type that made her stomach drop. "Wow, you're like a giant," he had said, loud enough for his friends to hear. "I'd need a ladder just to slow dance with you." His friends erupted in laughter, and Maya felt her face burn with shame. She spent the rest of the night hiding in the bathroom, calling her mom to pick her up early. That night, she threw away the heels and promised herself she'd never wear them again. Her mother meant well, but her advice only made things worse. "Maybe try to make yourself seem smaller, honey," she would say while helping Maya get ready for school events. "Slouchy. Little, wear flats, let the boys feel taller." Her mom had grown up in a different time, when women were expected to make themselves less to make men feel more. Maya followed this advice throughout high school and college. She hunched her shoulders, wore only flat shoes, and avoided raising her hand in class even when she knew the answers. She became an expert at making herself invisible, even though everything about her natural presence commanded attention. After college, something shifted. Maya discovered she had a real talent for graphic design. She landed a job at a small creative agency in Portland, and for the first time in her life, her height became an advantage. She could reach high shelves to grab supplies, hang artwork at the perfect eye level, and command respect in client meetings. Her boss, a woman in her 50s, often praised Maya for her strong presence and natural leadership. But dating? That was still a nightmare. Maya threw herself into work for years, convincing herself she was too busy for relationships. She worked late nights, took on extra projects, and won several design awards. Her apartment was beautiful, filled with her own artwork and carefully chosen furniture. She had built a life she was proud of, but something was missing. The wake-up call came on a rainy Tuesday evening when her younger sister called with exciting news. "I'm engaged," her sister squealed through the phone. "He proposed last night. At our favorite restaurant. Oh, Maya, I'm so happy I could cry." Maya felt genuine joy for her sister. But as she hung up the phone, loneliness hit her like a truck. She looked around her empty apartment, beautiful but silent, and realized she had been hiding from love for years. She was 28 years old and had never been in a serious relationship. While she had been building her career and avoiding rejection, life had been passing her by. That night, she made a decision. She was going to start dating seriously. The next morning, Maya downloaded 3 different dating apps. She spent hours crafting the perfect profile, choosing photos where she looked friendly but not too tall, successful but not intimidating. She wrote a bio that highlighted her love of art and hiking, her sense of humor, and her passion for cooking. She left out her height, hoping to win people over with her personality first. She also signed up for a hiking group, joined a pottery class, and started attending networking events in the creative community. For the first time since high school, Maya was actively putting herself out there looking for love. The first few matches were exciting. Her phone buzzed with messages from interesting men who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her. She chatted with a lawyer who loved photography, a teacher who shared her passion for travel, and a software developer who made her laugh with his witty texts. But Maya couldn't shake the familiar anxiety that had followed her since high school. What would happen when they met in person? Would they be disappointed? Would they make excuses and leave early? Would they laugh like that boy at the homecoming dance? She practiced conversations in the mirror, chose outfits that wouldn't emphasize her height and always suggested coffee shops with tall chairs that might make the height difference less obvious. She bought new flats in every color and practiced walking with smaller steps. Her best friend noticed the changes immediately. "Why are you walking like that?" she asked during one of their weekly coffee dates. "And where are all your cute boots? You used to love those." Maya brushed off the questions, but inside she knew she was falling back into old patterns. She was making herself smaller again, just like in high school, but this time felt different because she was choosing it. She told herself it was strategic, not shame. She was just being smart about dating, giving herself the best chance for success. Deep down, though, Maya knew she was terrified. The confident woman who commanded respect in boardrooms and created beautiful art disappeared the moment dating entered the picture. She became that insecure teenager again, desperate to be chosen, willing to hide her true self for the chance at love. As she prepared for her first official date in years, Maya stood in front of her mirror wearing her safest outfit and flattest shoes. She looked smaller, quieter, less like herself. But maybe, she thought, that was what she needed to be to find someone who would love her. She had no idea that this journey would teach her the most important lesson of her life. The right person wouldn't ask her to be smaller. They would celebrate every inch of who she was. Maya's first date was supposed to be simple. Coffee at 2 in the afternoon, a public place, easy escape route if things went wrong. She had matched with Ryan, a lawyer who seemed genuinely interested in her artwork and had made her laugh during their text conversations. His profile showed a man with kind eyes and a warm smile, and he had asked thoughtful questions about her design work. She arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a corner table where she could sit with her back to the wall. Maya wore her most conservative outfit, a loose sweater, dark jeans, and her trusty black flats. She had practiced her posture in the mirror that morning, reminding herself to keep her shoulders relaxed and avoid sitting too straight. When Ryan walked in, Maya waved from her seat. She watched his face change the moment he saw her. The warm smile from his photos faded into something that looked almost like confusion. He approached the table slowly, as if trying to process what he was seeing. "Maya?" he asked, though they had already been texting, and he clearly knew it was her. "That's me," she said, standing up to greet him properly. The moment she rose, too, her full height, Ryan took an actual step backward. Even in flats, she was at least 3 inches taller than him. The next 20 minutes were painful. Ryan kept glancing around the coffee shop, fidgeting with his phone and giving short answers to her questions. He barely touched his coffee and kept checking his watch. Maya found herself hunching forward, trying to make herself appear smaller in her chair. "I'm sorry," Ryan finally said, gathering his jacket. "I just remembered I have an early meeting tomorrow." "Rain check?" Maya knew there would be no rain check. She watched him practically jog out of the coffee shop, leaving her alone with 2 full cups of coffee and a familiar ache in her chest. Date number 2 was with Kevin, a middle school teacher who loved hiking and cooking. Their phone conversations had been amazing. They talked for hours about travel, books, and their shared love of Italian food. Maya felt hopeful as she got ready, this time choosing a fitted t-shirt and jeans, still with flats but feeling a bit more like herself. They met at a small Italian restaurant Kevin had suggested. This time, Maya waited for him to arrive first before getting out of her car. When she walked in and spotted him at their table, she saw the exact moment his face fell. Kevin stood up to greet her, and the height difference was impossible to ignore. "Wow," he said, not in a good way. "You're really tall." "Is that a problem?" Maya asked, trying to keep her voice light. Kevin shrugged and sat back down. "I mean, it's just not what I expected. Your photos must have been taken at some interesting angles." The dinner was awkward. Kevin spent most of the time talking about his ex-girlfriend, who he mentioned was petite and cute. When Maya tried to change the subject to their shared interests, he seemed distracted and kept glancing at other couples in the restaurant. At the end of the night, Kevin was brutally honest. "Look, you seem nice, but I'm just not attracted to tall women. It's nothing personal, it's just my preference. I like to feel like the protector, you know? With you, I'd feel like the protected." Maya drove home in silence, Kevin's words echoing in her head. She had heard worse in high school, but somehow this hurt more. She was an adult now, successful and accomplished, yet she still felt like that awkward teenager being laughed at on the dance floor. Date 3 was with Alex, a graphic designer like herself. She thought maybe someone in her field would understand her better, appreciate her professional success, see past physical differences. Alex seemed excited about their shared interests, and their text conversations about design trends and favorite artists had been engaging. They met at an art museum, which felt perfect to Maya. Surrounded by beautiful artwork, she felt more confident, more like herself. Alex was waiting by the entrance, and when he saw her approach, his smile wavered just slightly. "You must be Maya," he said, extending his hand for a handshake instead of the hug she had expected. They walked through the museum together, and Maya found herself genuinely enjoying the conversation about different art movements and techniques. For a moment, she forgot about her height anxiety and got lost in passionate discussion about color theory and composition, but then they stopped in front of a mirror installation, and Maya caught their reflection. She towered over Alex, looking like his older sister rather than his date. She saw him notice the same thing, and the easy conversation died. "You know what?" Alex said suddenly. "I just remembered I have some client work I need to finish tonight. This was fun, though. Another early exit, another rejection, another night driving home alone. Dates 4, 5, and 6 followed the same pattern. Different men, different excuses, same result." Maya started to recognize the look. That moment of shock when they first saw her, followed by discomfort, then the inevitable early departure. She began to change her approach. She started mentioning her height in text conversations before meeting, hoping to weed out men who would have a problem with it. This backfired spectacularly. Most conversations ended abruptly after she brought it up, or men would make awkward jokes about needing a stepladder or asking if she played basketball. Maya's confidence started cracking in ways that surprised her. At work, she found herself second-guessing her ideas in meetings. She stopped wearing her favorite blazers that made her look powerful and professional. She even started avoiding her regular lunch spot because the hostess there always commented on how statuesque she looked. Her sister called one evening, bubbling with excitement about wedding dress shopping. "You have to come with me this weekend. I want your opinion on everything." Maya tried to sound enthusiastic, but her heart wasn't in it. How could she give advice about wedding dresses when she couldn't even get through a first date? "Are you okay?" her sister asked, picking up on Maya's subdued tone. "Just tired from work," Maya lied. But she wasn't tired from work. She was tired from trying to make herself smaller, tired from preparing for rejection, tired from wondering what was wrong with her, that 6 different men couldn't see past her height to the person she was inside. That night, Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror in her pajamas, looking at herself honestly for the first time in months. She had let these rejections change how she saw herself, just like in high school. The confident woman who had built a successful career was disappearing again, replaced by someone desperate to be chosen. She had 4 more dating app matches lined up for the following week. Part of her wanted to cancel them all, delete the apps, and go back to her safe, lonely, but predictable life. But another part of her, the part that had fought to build her career and create beautiful art, whispered that maybe she just hadn't met the right person yet. Maya took a deep breath and made herself a promise. She would go on these next dates, but she wouldn't shrink anymore. If someone couldn't handle her height, that was their problem, not hers. She had no idea how much harder things were about to get. Maya's 7th date was with Connor, a financial advisor who seemed different from the others. During their phone calls, he had mentioned that his mother was tall and that he admired strong, confident women. Maya felt a spark of hope as she got ready, this time choosing to wear a dress that actually fit her properly instead of hiding under loose clothes. They met at a trendy restaurant downtown. Connor was already seated when she arrived, and she felt optimistic when he stood up with a genuine smile. He was about her height, maybe an inch shorter, but he didn't seem bothered by it initially. The first hour went well. They talked about travel, work, and shared funny stories from their childhoods. Maya started to relax, thinking maybe she had finally found someone who could see past her height. She even found herself sitting up straighter, not hunching over, her food like she had been doing on previous dates. But then Connor excused himself to use the restroom, and when he came back, something had changed. Maya noticed him glancing around the restaurant, seeming uncomfortable. She followed his gaze and realized what had happened. He had seen their reflection in the restaurant's large windows. Standing together, she was clearly taller than him. "You know," Connor said, sitting back down but avoiding eye contact, "I just realized I might have been misleading you. I'm actually getting back together with my ex. We've been talking, and I think we're going to work things out." Maya felt her heart sink. "That's quite a sudden realization," she said quietly. Connor had the decency to look embarrassed. "Yeah, well, these things happen. Sorry about that. Date 8 was even worse." Tony seemed confident and outgoing in his messages, talking about his love for dancing and how he enjoyed taking dance classes. Maya thought maybe someone who was comfortable with movement and rhythm wouldn't be bothered by their height difference. They met at a casual bar with live music. Tony was shorter than her by several inches, but he had seemed so confident in his messages that Maya hoped it wouldn't matter. For the first few minutes, things seemed fine. They found a small table and ordered drinks. But then Tony started making jokes. "Wow, I feel like I need to stand on a chair to talk to you properly," he laughed. But there was an edge to it. "Good thing I'm not insecure about my height, right?" As the evening went on, the jokes got worse. He made comments about how she could probably see over everyone at concerts, asked if she had trouble finding clothes that fit, and wondered aloud if she had ever considered modeling because that's what tall girls usually do, right? The final straw came when the live band started playing and couples around them began to dance. Tony looked at the dance floor, then back at Maya and shook his head. "I don't think we should dance. People might stare, you know. It would look pretty funny." Maya excused herself to the bathroom and seriously considered leaving through the back exit. Instead, she returned to the table, politely told Tony she wasn't feeling well, and left. She cried in her car for 10 minutes before driving home. By date 12, Maya had developed a thick skin, or so she thought. She had been rejected for being too tall, too intimidating, too much. One man told her he felt emasculated, just sitting across from her. Another said she seemed like the type who would wear the pants in the relationship. Each rejection chipped away at her confidence a little more. Jake seemed different. He was a veterinarian who loved animals and had a gentle way of speaking that made Maya feel comfortable. Their text conversations were sweet and thoughtful. He asked about her art, remembered details about her work projects, and shared funny stories about the animals he treated. When they met for dinner, Jake was warm and friendly. He was shorter than Maya, but he didn't seem to notice or care initially. They talked about everything: books, movies, travel dreams, childhood pets. Maya found herself laughing genuinely for the first time in weeks. But as the evening progressed, Maya noticed Jake becoming quieter. He started giving shorter responses to her questions and seemed distracted. When she asked if everything was okay, he was honest in a way that hurt more than the lies. "Look, Maya, you're incredible. You're smart, funny, talented, and beautiful. But I can't get over the height thing. I know that makes me shallow, and I hate that about myself, but I can't help it. When I imagine introducing you to my family or taking you to work events, I just feel Uncomfortable. I'm sorry. Maya appreciated his honesty, but it stung. At least he acknowledged that the problem was his, not hers. But it didn't make the rejection hurt any less. After Jake, Maya started to change her approach entirely. She was tired of shrinking, tired of apologizing for who she was. If she was going to keep getting rejected, she might as well be rejected for being herself rather than some smaller version she was pretending to be. For date 13, she put on heels, not sky-high stilettos, but a nice pair of 2-inch heels that made her feel confident and powerful. She wore a dress that fit her properly and did her hair in a way that made her feel beautiful. Peter, her date, was a software engineer who had seemed interesting and kind in their conversations. When she walked into the coffee shop wearing heels and standing at her full height, she saw his eyes widen. "Maya?" he asked, clearly surprised. "That's me," she said, refusing to apologize or make excuses. Peter recovered quickly and they sat down to talk. The conversation was pleasant enough, but Maya could tell he was distracted by her height. He kept making comments about it, asking if she played basketball in college, mentioning that she was taller than his last 3 girlfriends combined, wondering how she found shoes that fit. At the end of the date, Peter was direct. "You seem great, but I'm looking for someone more, I don't know, traditional? You're kind of intimidating." Maya smiled. "Good to know," she said, and walked away with her head held high. Date 14 was with Chris, 15 was with Andrew, 16 was with Tyler. Each one followed a similar pattern. Maya showed up as herself, tall, confident, unapologetic. Each one found reasons why it wouldn't work, but something had shifted inside Maya. The rejection still hurt, but they hurt differently now. Instead of feeling like she was fundamentally flawed, she started to understand that she just wasn't compatible with these men. And maybe that was okay. After Tyler told her he preferred women who made him feel more masculine, Maya sat in her car and realized something important. She didn't want to be with someone who needed her to be smaller to feel good about himself. She wanted someone who celebrated her strength, not someone who was threatened by it. Date 17 was coming up. Maya looked at herself in the mirror before leaving, wearing her favorite dress and heels that made her feel like she could conquer the world. She was tired of dating, tired of rejection, but she had one more in her to give. She had no idea that this 17th rejection would be her last. Maya wasn't even planning to meet anyone that Friday evening. After 17 disappointing dates, she had decided to take a break from the whole dating scene. Instead, she was treating herself to something she truly enjoyed. An art gallery, opening downtown that featured local photographers. She wore her favorite emerald green dress and her most comfortable heels, the ones that made her feel powerful and confident. For the first time in months, she wasn't dressing for a date or trying to impress anyone. She was dressing for herself, and it felt amazing. The gallery was buzzing with people admiring the black and white photographs hanging on the white walls. Maya moved slowly through the space, genuinely absorbed in the artwork. She stopped in front of a stunning photograph of an elderly couple holding hands on a park bench, their faces full of love and laughter lines. "That one's my favorite too," said a warm voice beside her. Maya turned to see a tall man with kind eyes and an easy smile. He was wearing a simple button-down shirt and jeans, holding a glass of wine and studying the same photograph she had been admiring. "There's something so genuine about it," Maya replied, not feeling the usual anxiety that came with talking to attractive men. "Like you can see their whole love story in one picture." "Exactly," he said, his face lighting up. "That's Harold and Betty. They've been married for 62 years. I took that photo in the park near my apartment. They sit on that same bench every Sunday afternoon." Maya looked at him with new interest. "You're the photographer?" He smiled and extended his hand. "I'm David. And you are?" "Maya, she said, shaking his hand and noticing that he didn't seem at all bothered by the fact that in her heels she was exactly his height. Maya, he repeated, like he was testing how her name sounded. That's a beautiful name. Are you an artist yourself? They fell into easy conversation as they moved through the gallery together. David told her about how he had gotten into photography as a way to deal with stress from his day job as a pediatric nurse. Maya shared her passion for graphic design and how she loved creating visual stories for her clients. What struck Maya most was how natural everything felt. David asked thoughtful questions about her work and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. He didn't make any comments about her height, didn't seem uncomfortable walking beside her, and maintained easy eye contact when they talked. I have to ask, David said as they paused in front of another photograph. What made you come out tonight? Do you always go to gallery openings alone? Maya laughed. Honestly, I needed to do something that made me happy. I've been on a lot of disappointing dates lately, and I decided to take a break and do something just for me. Disappointing dates? David asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. What made them disappointing? Maya hesitated. Usually when she mentioned her dating struggles, men either got uncomfortable or started giving unwanted advice. But something about David's expression made her feel safe to be honest. This might sound silly, but a lot of men seem to have a problem with my height, she said, watching his face carefully for any change in expression. David looked genuinely confused. Your height? What's wrong with your height? I'm tall, Maya said, as if it should be obvious. And? David waited for more explanation. And? That bothers a lot of people, Maya finished, realizing how ridiculous it sounded when she said it. Out loud to someone who clearly didn't see the problem. David shook his head. That's their loss. I mean, look at you. You can see all the artwork at the perfect eye level without having to stand on your toes or crane your neck. You have a commanding presence. Why would anyone want you to be smaller? Maya felt something shift inside her chest. No one had ever framed her height as an advantage before. No one had ever suggested that other people were missing out by not appreciating it. They spent the next 2 hours talking about everything: art, work, travel dreams, childhood memories, favorite books and movies. David told her about growing up with 3 sisters who all teased him for being the sensitive one who cried during movies. Maya shared stories about her basketball days and how her teammates had made her feel proud of her height for the first time. I have a confession, David said as the gallery started to empty out. I've been trying to work up the courage to ask for your number for the past hour. Maya felt her heart skip. What was stopping you? I was worried you might be here with someone, a woman like you, intelligent, beautiful, confident. I figured you were probably taken. Just me tonight, Maya said, smiling. In that case, David said, pulling out his phone, would you like to get coffee sometime, or maybe dinner, or we could go to another gallery opening? I'd like that, Maya said, entering her number into his phone. As they walked toward the exit together, David held the door open for her. Can I walk you to your car? Sure, Maya said, and as they stepped outside, she realized she felt taller than ever, not because of her heels, but because, for the first time in months, someone was seeing her exactly as she was and liking what they saw. I have to say, David said as they reached her car, this wasn't how I expected my evening to go, but I'm really glad I came tonight. Me too, Maya said, meaning it completely. I'll call you tomorrow, David promised. If that's okay? I'd, be disappointed if you didn't, Maya replied. As she drove home, Maya caught herself smiling in the rearview mirror. She had gone to the gallery hoping to enjoy some beautiful art and ended up meeting someone who made her feel like a work of art herself. For the first time since she had started dating, she was genuinely excited about what might come next. She had no idea that in just a few months, David would be down on one knee telling her she was perfect exactly as she was. David called the next day just like he promised. Not a text message, but an actual phone call that made Maya's heart flutter when she saw his name on her screen. "I know this might sound forward," he said after they had chatted for a few minutes, "but I can't stop thinking about our conversation last night. Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow? There's this little Italian place I think you'd love." Their first official date was everything Maya had dreamed of but never experienced. David picked her up at her apartment, and when she answered, the door in her favorite dress and heels, his face lit up with genuine admiration. "You look stunning," he said, and Maya could tell he meant it. The restaurant was cozy and intimate, with soft lighting and the smell of fresh bread filling the air. David had reserved a corner table, and as they sat down, Maya realized she wasn't thinking about her height at all. She was just enjoying being with someone who made her laugh and asked questions that showed he was really listening to her answers. "Tell me about your photography," Maya said as they shared an appetizer. "What got you started?" David's eyes softened. "Honestly, it was therapy. Working with sick kids can be emotionally overwhelming sometimes. I needed something beautiful to focus on, something that reminded me there's still magic in the world." "That's incredible," Maya said. "You help heal children during the day and create art at night." "When you put it like that, it sounds much more impressive than it feels," David laughed. "What about you? What's the story behind your design career?" Maya found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone in years. She told him about discovering her talent in college, about the satisfaction of solving visual problems, about the thrill of seeing her work displayed in public spaces. "I love how passionate you get when you talk about your work," David said, reaching across the table to touch her hand gently. "Your whole face lights up." 3 weeks into dating David, Maya realized she had stopped analyzing every interaction for signs of rejection. She stopped checking her posture in mirrors and worrying about whether her heels were too high. David made her feel beautiful exactly as she was. Their first month together was filled with long walks through the city, museum visits, cooking dinner, together at his apartment, and hours of conversation that flowed as easily as breathing. David introduced her to his friends, and Maya noticed how he always spoke about her with pride, never apologizing for her height or making jokes about it. The moment Maya knew David was different happened at his hospital's charity fundraiser. She had been nervous about attending, knowing she would meet his colleagues and worried about the usual stares and whispered comments that seemed to follow her to formal events. "Are you sure about this dress?" Maya asked, looking at herself in the mirror before they left. She was wearing a stunning black gown that made her feel elegant, paired with heels that brought her to nearly 6 feet tall. "Are you kidding?" David said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "You're going to be the most beautiful woman there. I'm going to be so proud to have you on my arm." At the fundraiser, Maya towered over many of the other guests, including some of David's male colleagues. But instead of the usual embarrassment or awkward jokes she had come to expect, David introduced her with obvious pride. "This is Maya, my girlfriend," he would say, his hand resting comfortably on her lower back. "She's an incredible graphic designer. You should see the campaign she just finished for the Children's Museum." When they danced together later that evening, Maya in her heels was slightly taller than David. She started to worry, began to pull away slightly, but David pulled her closer. "Don't you dare shrink on me now," he whispered in her ear. "I love dancing with a woman who can look me straight in the eye." 6 months into their relationship, David took Maya hiking on a trail outside the city. They packed a picnic lunch and spent the day talking and taking photographs of the stunning mountain views. As they sat on a rocky outcrop sharing sandwiches, David grew quiet. "What are you thinking about?" Maya asked. "You," David said simply. "How different my life feels since I met you, how much happier I am." "I feel the same way," Maya said, leaning against his shoulder. Maya, David said, turning to face her fully. I know we haven't been together very long, but I need you to know something. I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I think I already have fallen in love with you. Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. I love you too, she whispered. A year later, David planned something special. He convinced Maya to come back to the art gallery where they had first met, telling her there was a new exhibition he wanted to see. When they arrived, Maya was confused to find the gallery nearly empty, except for a few close friends and family members. David, what's going on? She asked. He led her to the back wall of the gallery where a single photograph was displayed. It was the picture from their first meeting, the elderly couple on the park bench, but now it was accompanied by a plaque that read, For Maya, who taught me that love means celebrating each other exactly as we are. David turned to face her, and Maya's heart stopped when she saw him reaching into his jacket pocket. Maya, he said, getting down on one knee right there in the gallery. 17 men were too blind to see what I saw the moment I met you. You're not too tall, too much, or too anything. You're perfect. You're brilliant and kind and beautiful. And I want to spend the rest of my life looking up to you in every way possible. He opened a small velvet box, revealing a ring that sparkled under the gallery lights. Will you marry me? Through her tears, Maya looked down at this man who had changed everything, who had taught her that the right person doesn't ask you to be smaller. They celebrate every inch of who you are. Yes, she said, her voice strong and clear. Yes, absolutely yes. As David slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Maya realized that all 17 rejections had led her to this moment. Sometimes you have to meet the wrong people to appreciate the right one. Sometimes you have to learn to love yourself before someone else can love you completely. And sometimes, the 18th person you meet will look at you and say exactly what you've been waiting your whole life to hear. You're perfect exactly as you are.